Welcome to the Daily Insider here on VegasInsider.com, on our YouTube channel, and also on VegasInsider.com, so we're everywhere. Kevin Rogers and Thom Cunningham with you as we wrap up the week before we head into the weekend. And Masters, second round today, ongoing as we speak. And getting a message by my phone that the Masters is going on, so thank you very much. All right, so let's get to it, Tom. Your thoughts through at least one day of what you saw at the Masters before we look at the second round.
Well, it's hard not to talk about what Justin Rose did yesterday in round one. He shot 2 over par. Then he was unstoppable after that. He had 9 birdies, I believe, after shooting 2 over par to finish 7 under for the day. Justin Rose was 100 to 1 odds to win this event heading into Thursday. Heading into Friday, into today, Justin Rose was actually 7 to 2, so a substantial drop in value for Justin Rose to win this event overnight. Now, Justin Rose is currently 3 over par for today. He had an early tee time, so he's still in the lead at 4 under. But this was the concern with Justin Rose, is can he finish? Because this guy has made the cut in 14 of 15 Masters appearances. He's finished as a 2-time runner-up here. And just listening to some of the golf experts on Golf TV and all around the media is that Justin Rose is starting to revert back to his old habits. And so it's interesting to see Justin Rose kind of go back to his iron game, which is what you need in this course in Augusta, which is also why you're seeing Bryson DeChambeau struggle so much, which we'll also get to in a minute. But Justin Rose, he now has Justin Thomas breathing down the back of his neck. Justin Thomas is now 4 under par with Justin Rose. So despite the 100 to 1 odds looking good on Thursday, based off the results of what we saw, it seems almost to me like Justin Rose is not going to be able to hold this lead much longer. He probably won't even be the leader at the end of the day. He's already tied with Justin Thomas, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in round 2.
Yeah, and the projected cut is 3 over, and Bryson DeChambeau, who's one of the favorites, is at 5 over.
Yeah.
He's at 1 over today through 5 holes currently. So DeChambeau struggling. Rory McIlroy 4 over yesterday. He tees off in less than 2 hours. Sergio Garcia 4 over. I mean, when's he ever won a big event? And then you also have Jason Day at 5 over. Phil Mickelson at 5 over. So a lot of big names are below that cut line.
Yeah.
But what about Dustin Johnson at 2 over and Bubba Watson, who you like a lot?
Yeah.
He's at 2 over. Brooks Koepka at 2 over. So a lot of guys struggling early.
I'm actually surprised Brooks is doing this well because of his injuries, that he's been kind of hobbled into this tournament. So it's actually encouraging to see Brooks Koepka shoot 2 over. I mean, it's not near the top of the leaderboard, but again, it's encouraging for what he has sustained, what his body has sustained recently. The big one to me is Patrick Cantlay. A lot of people really liked him entering this event. He shot 14 under par at the Dell Tech match play before being eliminated. He is 8 over par. So Cantlay is definitely, I would say, the most disappointing of the names, but it could be Bryson DeChambeau based off all the trash Bryson tends to talk entering this tournament. He has never seen a top 20 finish. Well, I shouldn't say never. In the last 5 Masters events, including this one, it will be a failure for Bryson DeChambeau because he has not reached the top 20 in Augusta, and it's starting to see the same trends this year. And the reason I think you're seeing that is because he's an aggressive hitter. The guy hits the ball 324 yards per swing when he's teeing off the box. So this course does not cater to that style of play. If you're aggressive in Augusta, you're going to fail. You have to have touch, you have to have finesse. These are very sloping and fast greens. Which is why I think you see Bryson DeChambeau struggling, and he's not going to make the cut.
So this was entering today, the round 2 odds to win the Masters. And this is on our homepage at VegasInsider.com. So Justin Rose entering the day was at 7 to 2 odds, so he was in good shape, and then he struggled so far. Jordan Spieth isn't too far back at 7 to 1. Dustin Johnson 16 to 1. He opened at plus 950.
Yeah,
and then you got guys like Schauffele, who you've mentioned.
I like him.
Look at DeChambeau. Look at that fall from the favorites now 50 to 1 in the same range as Koepka. Rory's at 66 to 1. Bubba's at 90 to 1. Is there anybody in past that like top 4 or top 5 you keep an eye on moving forward?
Absolutely. Xander Schauffele, we've talked about, he's seen a top 10 finish in 7 of 14 major events. That's quite remarkable. So him at, what is he, like +1 or even? He's right around there. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. John Rahm's even as well. I know he's up near the top of the list, but I really do like John Rahm and Xander Schauffele entering round 2 as 2 favorites for me to possibly win this event. 2 names really stand out to me, though, that have played very well and should earn a little bit of conviction. One is Will Zalatoris. He had odds to be the top debutant in this Masters at +100 or +110 rather, and he is electric. He's 2 under par right now. He's been one of the more impressive rookies I think the golf has seen in quite some time. He's kind of flown under the radar, but for +4,000, just keep an eye on him. And then Shane Lowry, who's right under him. Shane Lowry won the Open, and because of 2020 was such a fugly year, you don't really put too much into what any athlete did in 2020, let alone golfers, because the golf schedule was all over the place. You had majors canceled. I mean, you had the Masters move from April to November, which impacted the course of play tremendously. So just going back to Shane Lowry's win at the Open, he is now 1 under par. This is a good golfer that doesn't have a lot of conviction with bettors, but they should. He is a proven winner. He's 1 under par. He always goes under the radar, and for 4,500 odds, I kind of like that. So keep an eye on Will Zalatoris and Shane Lowry for those middle-of-the-pack golfers. But you also look down to Victor Hovland right there, and Abe Ancer, who's a little bit below. I was telling you this before we hopped on, Kevin. Abe Ancer was actually 1 over par with Victor Hovland. Then around 8 p.m. last night, maybe a little bit earlier, Abraham Ancer got a penalty, a 2-stroke penalty that put him at +3. So,
And what was the penalty for?
He touched the sand with his club. Yeah, so don't do that for you kids out there that might want to be golfers in the future. Don't touch the sand with your club. But that did also move Bubba Watson up into the top 34. So it's interesting when someone gets penalized after the round is played, be sure to double check the leaderboard, because I had Bubba Watson in top 30 to finish this event, and he was outside the top 30. Then the penalty happened to Abe Ancer. Bubba moves into the top 30, and then of course you had people tee off this morning, so now Bubba's back down outside the top 30. So just bear in mind that penalties and stroke penalties might impact a certain golfer. If you have a wager on a top 30, top 40, top 20 market, definitely want to check back and see if there's anything that has happened, because the Abe Ancer penalty yesterday did impact a lot of standings for golfers that were ranked ahead of him.
Yeah, a lot going on through the first day, and now moving to the second day, which, again, has started already this morning, and there's plenty of action still to come later in the day. So, yeah, that's honestly, that's the look where I feel like in these tournaments, as opposed to, you look at like college basketball, and Gonzaga, Baylor were the 2 top favorites. They meet up in the national championship. They were destined to go there. Where I feel it's very hard to look at guys like DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson, who are the favorites, and say, okay, I'm just going to bet on those guys. Right. You got to find the guys in the middle somewhere, or I shouldn't say the middle, but somewhere in that top 20, and maybe one outsider. But you got to look there and not say, okay, DeChambeau, he's a big name, he's a big personality, he's going to be the guy, because right now he may not make it to the weekend. Yeah,
honestly, you really should only be betting on favorites in golf if it is if it's a star in a weak field. So a good example would be, let's just say Justin Thomas is in the Puerto Rico Charity Open instead of a World Golfing Championship that weekend. Then you'd be like, okay, I want to take Justin Thomas. But you're right. Favorites in golf have too short of odds. Dustin Johnson and Bryson DeChambeau are plus 950 entering Thursday. You'd have to be insane to take that, in my mind. You could almost live bet either one in round 2 or 3 for similar or slightly less odds if they're playing well. And you look at some of the odds for entering round 2. Bryson DeChambeau is already down to plus 5,000, so you've just thrown away money there. And then you look at Justin Rose, who is 100 to 1, and he's at the top right now. So you're absolutely right, Kevin. Golf is one of those unique sports where it's actually, look, any sport, it's hard to justify betting on a heavy favorite, minus 250. minus 300, whatever. Golf is unique, though, because the heavy favorite is plus 800, plus 950, plus 1,000. Even those odds are not valuable enough because what you're essentially doing is picking a needle in a haystack for a winner market in golf. So I'm right there with you, Kevin. Look at some trends. Look how golfers play on certain courses. Again, the writing was on the wall for DeChambeau in this one. The guy is straight power, has absolutely no touch. He's working on it, but he's straight power. That does not work in this course, and you're seeing the ripple effects of it.
Yeah, and there's a lot still to go with this tournament. Basically 2.5 days almost before we crown a winner of the Masters in Augusta. And, it's just it's very exciting from the standpoint of you don't know who's going to break through to the top, where it looked like Justin Rose was going to be the guy. And, again, it's easy to falter just like that. And all of a sudden now you're in control, and now you kind of fall back. Not fall into the pack, but now it's just not as easy because now you got other guys catching you.
It's not, and I mentioned Shane Lowry. He's already 3 over for the day. So keep in mind too, it's early in round 2. But what you're seeing right now between Justin Rose and Shane Lowry, even Mackenzie Hughes is struggling out of the gates. There's supposed to be rain today and tomorrow in Augusta. And if that's the case, it will impact how these players approach the course. But what you're seeing right now to start round 2 is a lot of the contenders, they're not playing very well right now. They're starting to fall down. So just bear in mind that this is only going to get more difficult for most of these golfers as the days progress. And if the weather is cruel, it's not going to get any easier for them.
That's Thom Cunningham.
I am.
He's going to exit now.
I am.
He's getting kicked out to go chill for the weekend.
A lot to do.
And watch the Masters. So we're going to continue the Daily Insider. Thank you, Tom. We're going to continue the Daily Insider with just me, and that's it. And Tom is in the same room as me, so I just want to let you know that this is not like a crazy secret of the trade. He is in the same room as me. Anyway, so we'll talk to Tom next week. So let's look at everything else that we have past the Masters, because obviously there's other stuff going on. And with the NBA, first off, last night you had a lot of crazy overs that came through. And we'll begin with at least the early games in which the Heat and the Lakers, they met up in an NBA Finals rematch at the American Airlines Arena. Still no LeBron. Still no Anthony Davis. A game that the Heat were up big, and then the Lakers came back, and then the Heat built the lead up to 8-10 points. The Lakers came back, and the Lakers just never really went away, and they get the cover as 9.5-point dogs. They lose by 6, 110-104. Actually got scary towards the end from a total standpoint. Game closed at 205.5, and you got to the final minute or so, and it was hovering around like 202, 203. Like, you didn't clinch it yet, where you had you had the number in control, 59, 51, 53, that they were kind of on a really good pace that you would hope it would get over by like a minute or 2 minutes left. It didn't hit until the final minute, but still, the Heat end up getting the sweep of the Lakers in the regular season. I know it doesn't mean much after they lost to the Lakers in the finals last year, but the Heat end up getting a big win and kind of a win they needed. You can't lose to that Lakers team without their 2 big stars. Elsewhere, the Cavaliers blow out the Thunder. We had talked about it yesterday here on the Daily Insider, that very tough game to pick simply because how do you trust Cleveland as a road favorite, but also Oklahoma City's a complete mess. They're probably the worst talent roster currently in the NBA. I mean, at least Cleveland has NBA players. And after a bit of a tight start, the Cavs open it up in the second half. As you see, they outscored the Thunder by 23 points in the second half, and they win it 129-102. So they avenge an earlier home loss to Oklahoma City. Both those games go over the first two. And then you had the unders come through. Well, Chicago-Toronto, we'll skip down to that and then go back because that was an early game. That was a rescheduled game. That's why it was the bottom of the rotation. But Chicago playing a Toronto team that dressed only 8 players. The Raptors, again, they've had a mess of a season. They're just ready for it to be over. And the Bulls have played better. I think it's now 4 straight wins for them. This game, you talk about on the over pace the whole time, 60 after 1, 55 after 2, 61 in the third. So they put up a bunch of points, easy over in that game, and the Bulls pretty much in control of it. They opened things up in the second quarter to go up and take a comfortable halftime lead and pretty much put it on cruise control. So now we go back. Bucks playing again without Giannis. And that's an issue for Milwaukee, that it's one thing to have the load management, say, okay, you're going to miss a game here and there, but Giannis is missing a lot of games. He missed the Sacramento game, he missed the Golden State game, and now he missed the Dallas game. And they lost 2 of those, and they beat the Kings by 2 or 3. So Milwaukee not exactly playing their best basketball right now without their MVP, which, isn't a surprise. But Dallas, after they lost to Houston 2 nights ago, really ugly loss, a 10-point favorite on the road. They come back home and get Milwaukee. Back and forth game most of the way, but you see 36-17 in the fourth quarter. So the Mavs open it up. They come back and beat Milwaukee. Good win for Dallas. They continue to help themselves in the Southwest. And Milwaukee, look, they're going to win the Central in a walk. So that's not an issue. The division is never an issue for the Bucks, considering they're in the weakest division of basketball right now. But at the same time, you got to get your guy back. And you say, oh, well, let's wait for him to be there in the playoffs healthy. That's fine, but you don't want it to get to a point where this could be lingering, because, look, they play Philadelphia in a 7-game series. They play Brooklyn in a 7-game series. That is not going to be easy, even with Giannis in the lineup. If you don't have him there, he's not healthy, then the Bucks will be out quickly. Phoenix loses at the Clippers, 113-103. Suns run the back-to-back after they beat the Jazz in overtime the night before. And Phoenix had been a really good road dog, but now 2 losses to the Clippers this season. And you see where LA trailed at the half, but opened it up in the second half. Rajon Rondo, big pickup for the Clippers now, getting that veteran point guard in there. And look, you get good games from Kawhi and Paul George and the other role players they have. It's going to be a tough team to knock out, the Clippers. And we were waiting for that Clippers-Lakers Western Conference Final last year. We know the Clippers blew it to the Nuggets. Now we'll see if it happens again, but now it depends on the Lakers and LeBron's status and Anthony Davis' status. Portland loses at Utah. There's a game where Portland's up at the half. Utah is the big third quarter, 40-19, to outscore Portland. They beat the Blazers for the second time this season. Utah continues to stay hot at home. They have just 2 home losses so far in the season. So good bounce back there for Utah. That one stays under. And the late night game, Detroit-Sacramento, stays under. No Jeremy Grant for the Pistons. They were 3-0 to the over without Jeremy Grant, but yet the offense still performs well without their leading scorer, which is really odd. Sacramento's offense does nothing. You see the first half, 44 points. They get 57 in the second, but too little, too late. They were behind that whole game. They were getting blown out the half. So really even the 113-101 final wasn't even indicative of how much of a blowout the game was. So Detroit gets some revenge on Sacramento for losing at home to the Kings a few weeks ago. So after you had the 3 quick overs in the NBA, 4 unders come through. And now we look at tonight inside the NBA and a very big card. Indiana's at Orlando, and we talk about the Pacers and their struggles. The second best team in the Central right now is the Bulls, because Detroit's way out of it, Cleveland's way out of it, and Indiana's starting to get way out of it. I don't know how you trust the Pacers with all their injury problems. Malcolm Brogdon's banged up. Miles Turner's banged up. Domantas Sabonis is banged up. That this Indiana team just isn't very good right now. But a winning record on the road, which is kind of interesting. And Orlando, they got Cole Anthony back, but they traded everyone else off. So the Magic lost to the Wizards the other night. Now let's see what they do as a home dog against the Pacers. That game went to overtime last time they played Indiana and Orlando, and Indiana beat them at home. Memphis is at New York. First meeting this season between these teams, and I believe they met just one time last season. Because of the pandemic, they didn't play their second meeting, and the Knicks did not make the bubble. So first time in a while, they are hooking up, and Memphis has just been on fire against the spread of late. And looking back at what the Grizzlies have done, they've covered, what was that, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, 10-1, 10-1 the last 11. Got blown out by the Jazz, but 10-1 the last 11 for Memphis. And in this stretch, they've lost 3 games straight up. Utah. So they're beating teams they're supposed to beat. Memphis probably won't catch Dallas in the Southwest, but they'll be in the playoff mix. And we keep talking about the Knicks and their struggles of closing out games. And the Knicks keep getting close, but a couple games go their way. They're not 25 and 27. They're probably, 27 and 25, 28 and 24. And it's going to come back and haunt the Knicks. It really is. All these close losses that they've had recently. But the Grizzlies, a short favorite against the Knicks. The Bulls and Hawks meet up in Atlanta. And I mentioned that Chicago's probably the second best team in the Central. Even though Indiana is one game ahead of them, the Bulls are in better shape right now with Zach LaVine, with Nikola Vucevic from the Magic, who they got. And, the Bulls just better coach team with Billy Donovan. They've won 4 straight, so they're coming back to life. They're playing with revenge after losing in Atlanta way back in December to start the season. Atlanta had 70-something points in the first half of that game against Chicago. So first time they're playing since then. Atlanta had won 7 straight at home before losing to Memphis 2 nights ago, and now they're laying 2 to Chicago. The Timberwolves and the Celtics at TD Garden. This is the end of a long homestand for Boston. And look at the Celtics. 1 game above 500 right now. They played well at home. They've been terrible on the road, but they snuck by the Knicks. They got blown up by Philadelphia. They're 0-3 against the Sixers this year. They have obviously struggled against the top teams. They've lost 3 times to Philly, lost to Brooklyn twice. They've actually beaten Milwaukee a few times, which is kind of surprising. They beat them 2 of 3. But they also lost to Dallas twice. They lost to the Lakers at home. There's a lot of losses to good teams, but to the subpar teams like Minnesota, they should beat them at home. And also they've gone under in every single game on this current homestand. Philadelphia is at New Orleans, and the Pelicans, they're a banged-up team as well. Zion's back, but Brandon Ingram's hurt, and also Josh Hart is out. What's his name? The other young guy from Virginia Tech, Walker, he's out too. So this Pelicans team just banged up, and they're not good defensively. Simple as that. And they got blown out by Alexander Walker, so I was thinking of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's not playing, and he's actually been a good contributor for them. But Philadelphia laying 6. This is a team that was so bad as a road favorite last year, but the 76ers have actually played better. And how do you feel if you're Brett Brown? That you steered the ship with Joel Embiid and with Ben Simmons. He gets fired, which was fine. But Doc Rivers comes in, a proven winner. He had a raw deal at the end with the Clippers, and now Philadelphia's on a pace. Well, I don't want to say a pace, but they're on a track to maybe win the Atlantic or finish second and have a very high seed in the East. So Philadelphia could make some moves now with Doc Rivers there, which is something Brent Brown couldn't do. And the 76ers on the road, beating Cleveland, beating the Lakers, beating the Warriors. They won this game by 1 in overtime against the Knicks. Beating Washington by 26. They split these 2 with Toronto. Like, they're now taking care of business as a road favorite, the 76ers. New Orleans, I'd mentioned all season about them being a very good home underdog. But, again, it's different when your team is beat up. And as a home dog, they're losing to the Hawks, but Zion and Ingram were out of that game. Lost to the Nuggets. They blew that one in the fourth quarter. So pretty much since this they beat the Clippers by 20, but lost to the Heat without Zion. So it's kind of going a little backwards for the Pelicans as far as a home underdog situation. Charlotte's at Milwaukee. Still don't know what Giannis's status is. The Hornets, they're a beat-up team too. Gordon Hayward's out. LaMelo Ball is out. Malik Monk was a little banged up too. So Charlotte, who has had a really nice season considering. And look, they've gone up and down recently. I mean, look, this is the last game of a long road trip for them. That's been, you beat the Wizards by 10. You are down right out of the chute against Brooklyn without James Harden. You lose that game by 22. You beat up Indiana. You lose by 30 at Boston. That was the first game Hayward was out. And then you win by 11 at a not good Oklahoma City team. So just been so up and down for this Charlotte team. But also, I guess on the flip side, you're playing Milwaukee now, and Milwaukee's still a good team even past Giannis. I mean, we can't say Giannis is done, so they don't have anything. They don't have anything left on that team. But look at Charlotte, though. Look who they've beaten since they beat Phoenix on February 24th. Let's look at the rest of this. Sacramento, Minnesota, Detroit, Toronto, Sacramento, San Antonio, who's totally fallen off, Houston, Washington, Indiana, Oklahoma City. They're not beating anybody good. Charlotte's winning games. Those are the teams in front of them in the schedule. They're not winning these games against better competition. They're beating the bad teams, but losing to the good teams. Okay, what are the losses? Boston, again, up and down team is still in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Boston, Brooklyn, Phoenix, the Clippers, the Lakers, Denver, and the Lakers, that was before LeBron got hurt. Denver, Portland, Golden State, Utah, Charlotte. They face the competition they're supposed to beat, they beat them. They face upper tier competition, they don't beat them. So looking at that one tonight, especially Milwaukee off the loss to Dallas last night, that could be a tough one to back the Hornets. It really could. San Antonio's at Denver, second straight game for them that they're facing off. The Spurs were up 10 in the third on the Nuggets 2 nights ago, but then Denver went on a huge run and beat San Antonio without Jamal Murray. He missed a second straight game. San Antonio's totally spiraled out of control. They were kind of hanging in the Southwest towards the top with Dallas, but losing to Cleveland at home, they lost the 2 overtime games to Atlanta and Indiana. And San Antonio's not playing well right now. And Denver, 33-18. Man, they are looking very, very good and not a one-hit wonder after they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. Washington's at Golden State. 240 is the total in that one. My goodness. But the Warriors off this win over Milwaukee a few nights ago. I mean, look, they're a really good team. 15-9 at home. On the road, they've been shaky. But they've been off for a few days since beating Milwaukee. And before that, they had some really ugly losses. The Toronto game, Steph didn't play, so that's not fair. But Golden State, the next two, back-to-back, Washington and Houston. You want to get back in the playoff race, you got to win these games. You have to. And then after that, you get Denver at home, tough. At OKC, at Cleveland. So 4 of the next 5 for Golden State. If you're Steve Kerr, you got to get these. You really do. You can't lose these games. Houston and the Clippers tonight. Clippers laying 12. You kind of wonder here, letdown maybe for the Clippers after beating the Suns last night. Remember, last time the Clippers played with no rest, they think they were 7 or 8-0 straight up ATS, going into their last situation with no rest, and that was against the Magic. After the Clippers beat the Bucks the night before. Clippers were up at halftime. Magic came back and beat them in the second half, and that was a totally decimated Magic roster. So now you're laying 12 against Houston, where the Rockets just beat Dallas. They hung with Phoenix. They're playing with a little more confidence. Since the 20-game losing streak, they're playing a little better. They still have some pros on their team. Just saying be careful with the Clippers. That's all. After they just beat Phoenix in a very important division game. So let's see what happens against a Houston team that's totally out of it and how they play. Let's take a quick look at Major League Baseball. And we'll go back to yesterday first. And again, you had a lot of teams starting their home slate, so that's why there's a lot of afternoon games. The Mets-Marlins, which obviously was a complete sham, and how that one turned out. If you missed this, the Marlins up 2-1 going to the ninth. The Mets tie the game with a home run, not the sham. Made it 2-2. Mets load the bases. Michael Conforto comes up. And 2 strikes, he gets hit on the elbow. He sticks his elbow in the strike zone. And it should have been strike 3. It would have gone to extra innings. Now, the Marlins would not have won the game. It just would have gone to extra innings. But the umpire, he was ready. He did this whole thing, and then he hit him on the hand. He tried to sell it on the elbow. And then the replay, this is what I don't get. How are things not reviewable when the game is on the line? There's got to be common sense put in somewhere that even if you call that even if you say he was hit by the pitch, remember, it's not a ball. He's just hit by the pitch. It's a dead ball. Okay, let's go to the replay and see. You have 3 other umpires you discuss, and you also have the replay crew in Secaucus or New York City or wherever they're at. And then you go over that and you say, all right, you cannot stick your elbow or any body part in the strike zone. It should be a strike. And then if you reverse it, go to extras, okay, we move on, and that's it. If the Mets even win in extra innings, it doesn't matter, because then at least the right call was made. But how the right call is not made in that scenario is just baffling to me. And even the Mets TV crew with Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez, who are very good and very honest, are like, the game can't end like this. You know, I mean, you got to get that one right. You know, you can't be throwing a parade for yourself because you won a baseball game when you probably shouldn't have won it in that fashion. Maybe you would have won it later on in extra innings, but like that, it just, and especially if you have the Marlins, you're up 2-1 going the ninth, that's a bad loss. It really, that's a tough one. The Cubs beat the Pirates 4-2, so Chicago now has beaten Pittsburgh 3 or 4 times this season. I mean, again, you're playing the Pirates, you got to clean up, especially if you're the Cubs. But Chicago, again, another under for them. They just the lineup has taken a hit. It's not what it was, but 11 hits though. Still only 4 runs. Arizona loses at Colorado 7-3, so the Rockies get 2 of 3 there. Quick start, 4-0 out of the chute, and the Rockies end the homestand with 3 wins, where a lot of people picked Colorado to finish towards the bottom or at the bottom of the NL West, and so far they're playing pretty well. Ketel Marte, he's hurt for Arizona, so the Diamondbacks, who already are not great offensively, their best players out, so that's not good news. Milwaukee wins at St. Louis, St. Louis beats Milwaukee. Milwaukee was at St. Louis, and they ended up losing. This guy, Corbin Burns, I mean, the numbers he's put up through the first 2 games, he shut down the Minnesota lineup, but got a no decision the first time around. And, again, had another great performance against the Cardinals yesterday, but yet the Milwaukee offense let him down. They couldn't get more runs, and the bullpen let him down late as the Cardinals get a 2-run homer from Nolan Arenado in his home debut for the Cardinals, and St. Louis wins. So St. Louis now has won 4 straight. But keep an eye on this guy, Corbin Burns. He's actually been a very good pitcher, a lot of strikeouts. And he could end up one day being the ace of that Milwaukee Brewers staff. In the American League, Boston jumped out to a 2-0 lead at Baltimore. They were trying to avenge the sweep from the last time they played at Fenway last weekend. The Orioles took all 3. They were down 3-2 in this one, the Red Sox. But you see late, they busted out for 5 runs, and they win that game. So now the Red Sox have won 4 straight. So after the bad start, now they are 4-3. The Twins beat the Mariners 10-2 in their home debut on the season. Jose Barrios continues to pitch well, and that Seattle team, again, they're in rebuild mode, so you can't really be surprised by that result. White Sox and Royals had a long rain delay, but then Lance Lynn in his home debut for the White Sox totally shuts down the Royals. Brad Keller is a guy that actually has been a good road underdog, but not the case yesterday. Lynn pitches well, and the White Sox, who got off to that slow start against the Angels, went 1-3 to start the season. They take the series in Seattle, then beat Kansas City. And look, if you're the White Sox, you've got to win these series against these types of teams. And they've done that. It's going to be Chicago, Minnesota top that AL Central this season. So they cannot afford the White Sox to be losing games to the Royals, and they didn't, and they won 6-0. The Angels win in Dunedin, Florida, the spring training home of the Blue Jays. They come back. So Toronto scores 3 out of the gate, but then they only score 2 runs the rest of the way. The Angels beat the Blue Jays 7-5, and LA continues to play very well. So now Joe Madden looks like a genius again because the Angels have gotten off to a hot start. Oakland's 1-game winning streak comes to an end. They fall to Houston 6-2. The Astros are now 5-0 against Oakland this season. So that means something in the American League West. But this nugget that I dug up yesterday, teams off of an extra innings win this season, after yesterday, they're 2-8 in their next game. So you win an extra innings next time, you probably lose. That's what it said. 8 of 10 teams now have lost, or 8 of 10 situations have lost. Yesterday, Oakland, Baltimore, and Milwaukee all came off of extra inning wins the game before. All of them lost the next day. And when you look at the results, A's lose by 4 runs, Brewers lose by 2 runs, Orioles lost by 4 runs. So today, the two teams that are going into that situation are the Angels, who beat the Blue Jays, and San Francisco, who won at San Diego 2 days ago in extra innings. The Giants are 3-3, playing their home opener against the Rockies today. The San Francisco Giants have not won back-to-back games this season. They're 0-2 as a favorite. So, naturally, they're laying 155 with Johnny Cueto on the mound against Austin Gomber, the former St. Louis Cardinal and FAU Owl. And the Rockies have actually not played too poorly after beating Arizona the last two times. You wonder if this number's rich for a reason, but still, the numbers don't lie with San Francisco. Haven't won back-to-back all year, extra innings trend, and they're 0-2 as a favorite. So we'll see how that turns out. The Nationals and Dodgers, they've had history in the playoffs. Washington heads out west. Joe Ross, a huge underdog against Walker Buehler, home opener for L.A. after they lost the finale at Oakland a few days ago in extra innings, a game that they led in the ninth inning, but they blew it. But, man, you want to lay 280 with Walker Buehler? That's asking a lot. The Phillies and Braves, they meet up in Atlanta, start the night action in the National League, and the Phillies swept the Braves last weekend in Philadelphia. Zach Wheeler struck out 10 in 7 innings, allowed just one hit opposite Charlie Morton in a 4-0 victory over the Braves. So now Wheeler is a dog. Wheeler had some tough numbers when he was with the Mets in Atlanta, so keep an eye on that going into tonight. And for Morton, it's his home debut for the Braves. The Reds and Diamondbacks. Cincinnati started the season with a bad first inning against St. Louis. They lost that game with the Cardinals. They've won 5 straight, and their offense has been clicking. Granted, they just swept the Pirates, but still, the Reds, who have not been towards the top of the NL Central for a while, they need to take all the wins they can get. So, Tyler Mahle on the mound, and he was a guy that actually pitched better last year for the Reds towards the end of the season. And after Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray hurt, Mahle's trying to step in and be that number 2 starter for the Cincinnati Reds. And Taylor Widener actually beat the Padres in his first start back on Sunday, and now he's a plus 120 dog against the Reds. The public's going to be all over Cincinnati in that one, so I'd be cautious. Yankees and Rays playoff rematch, Corey Kluber against Rich Hill. And Kluber making his second start for the Yankees, laying 135 on the road. And Rich Hill, who's bounced around all over the place, he's seen the Yankees plenty of times. But Tampa Bay back at home after getting swept by the Red Sox. So you wonder, how Tampa Bay is going to respond now. Their opener against the Yankees, and again, it's not big crowds, but Yankees have their spring training in Tampa, so I have some Yankee fans there. Meanwhile, not far away in Dunedin, it's the Angels and the Blue Jays, Andrew Heaney and TJ Zoich out of the University of Pittsburgh, and he pitched well against the Yankees his last time out. 4 innings, didn't allow a run, didn't get the win, but pitched well against the Yankees. Now he faces a pretty good lineup in the Angels, and Andrew Heaney was not good in his debut against the White Sox, but Heaney is a short favorite, and the Angels at 5-2 so far in the season. Detroit's at Cleveland. The Tigers took 2 of 3 from the Indians last weekend. And in the second game, Tigers beat the Indians. Julio Teheran making his Detroit debut. He's bounced around the Braves, the Angels, and he actually pitched very well against the Indians and Zach Plesac. Plesac had really good numbers against Detroit last year, had a tough first inning. Then the offense couldn't really help him, but Plesac is a heavy favorite here. Indians at 2-3 and Detroit's at 3-3. Oakland is at Houston, and the A's trying to beat the Astros for the first time all year. And the A's were a few outs away from being possibly 0-8, and they came back and beat the Dodgers back on Wednesday for their only win. Sean Manaea and Lance McCullers Jr. on the mound. McCullers had a lot of good numbers pitching at home for Houston. And Manaea, plus 160, one of Oakland's better pitchers, but you can't deny the fact the A's are 1-7. San Diego and Texas, that's the only interleague game tonight. Joe Musgrove, the former Pirate, laying nearly 200 against the Rangers. And look, Texas has played well. Texas took the last 2 against the Toronto Blue Jays at home. They took the finale against Kansas City. The offense looked good against the Royals early, and then they won a low-scoring game against the Blue Jays last time out. But you can't put anything past this Ranger team, and San Diego without Fernando Tatis Jr., like they're struggling right now. They're struggling offensively. So they did go to Texas last year. Remember that was the whole Tatis Grand Slam thing, and it was the whole controversy with that. Obviously, he's not playing now, but San Diego played at Texas last year in the regular season, and then the postseason they played the Dodgers there at Globe Life Parker Field. I always forget, but the new stadium down in Texas. So the Padres have had plenty of experience down there, and laying a ton against the Rangers coming up tonight. So that's the look at Major League Baseball. It's going to be a busy weekend, obviously very busy. We're now underway. You can buy picks for the NBA, Major League Baseball. You see Brian Bittler on a perfect 11-0 guaranteed play run. And our selections for the NBA and Major League Baseball, you go to the buy picks page, and $29.99 per handicapper. You select the handicapper, you get all their picks for the day for $29.95. If you want the guaranteed pick, it's $39.95. It's only one selection, but it's pay after you win. So if the pick wins, you pay. If the pick loses, you don't pay. Simple as that. $39.95 for the guaranteed pick, the best pick of the day from our handicappers. Also, Major League Baseball, you can buy picks as well for that with the, I shouldn't say small card today, but the not normal Friday. Once we get to next Friday, it's going to be back to normal. You know, these teams have their home openers. They like to space it out in case there's a rain out or something like that. But the daily expert picks, $29.95 for our handicappers, $39.95 for the guaranteed picks. Also, NHL as well. You can check those out on our NHL Arena. And, yeah, we have all of our previews for tonight for the NBA. Grizzlies, Knicks in New York. Also, 76ers, Pelicans. Our free baseball picks from Kevin Davis. If you find it here, you can click on the best bets. Also, I have a free pick video that you can check out. A couple picks for tonight's action. And also, NHL, Kings, Sharks, a late night game. Matt Blunt has a write-up on that game. And, you can check out the Masters odds. We'll keep updating them throughout the weekend for updated odds throughout in Augusta. So keep an eye on that. Also, Martinsville 500. Saturday night, Michael Roberts has the preview for that for the race as NASCAR had last weekend off due to Easter. So now they're back on Saturday night. Also, horse selections as well from Anthony Stabile. You could find those on our horse racing arena as well as on our homepage, the Arkansas Derby and the Lexington Stakes. And I released a brand new podcast with Ben Brown of Pro Football Focus to talk NFL. So if you want to get your NFL fix in, you can find that on our podcast page. So we got a lot there. And also, like and subscribe too, please, to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. And if you do subscribe, then you'll get the alerts for the Daily Insider when the video is coming out, and also all of our free pick videos as well you can find on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. So that is it for the week. We appreciate it and have fun watching the Masters as well as everything else going on. For Thom Cunningham, I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching the Daily Insider, and as always, best of luck with your picks.